Welcome to our Girl Talk Full Steam Ahead panel. My name is Lavanya, and I'm a junior at Harvard studying computer science and philosophy. I am very excited to be your moderator for this panel. I first got involved with Girl Up when I started a club at my high school, and then I eventually became a teen advisor and then teen advisor co-chair in the 2017 to 2018 class. I was also fortunate enough to attend YSI, which was an incredible experience. I met so many wonderful people, met so many mentors, learned so many different STEAM concepts. Would definitely recommend applying if you're considering it. And I was kind of involved with Girl Up when we were first starting to shift towards STEAM issues. So at least personally, it's really exciting to be here and to see how far the organization has come and see how much work we've done since then and how much work we're going to continue to do. This panel is part of our Girl Talk series. We are focusing on STEM this week, and so we're going to kick things off with our virtual STEM panel. I'm going to give a short introduction about women in STEM, and then I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. In many cases, younger generations, particularly women, are losing interest in pursuing careers in STEM. Girls and women are underrepresented in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Only 26% of STEM jobs are held by women globally, and worldwide, women represent only 35% of the students enrolled in STEM fields of study. If we look at women who are also racially underrepresented, so Black women, Latina, and other women racially underrepresented in STEM, they comprise fewer than 1 in 20 employed scientists and engineers. We believe that all girls deserve the opportunity to explore or pursue a career in STEM if they wish, and so this is why Girl Up has created our STEM for Social Good programming. Girl Up is inspiring the next generation of girl STEMists to be a force for gender equality and social change through our STEM programming, and we're trying to build up the next generation of STEMists through our STEM boot camps and Women in Science camps. To learn more or to get involved, please visit Girl Up's STEM for Social Good page. Okay, so some logistical issues before we start the panel. I'm going to try to leave the last 15 to 20 minutes of the panel for audience Q&A. As questions come to you, please type them in the Zoom chat, and I will look at them and ask panelists. Remember, the panelists want to answer your questions. We want this to be as helpful as possible, so please ask anything that comes to mind. Okay, so that's all that I need to say. Let's get the panel started. Panelists, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves with your names, titles, and the company that you work for. So Marissa, could you go ahead?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Feinman. I'm a project manager engineer for TE Connectivity.
Awesome, thank you. Brigid?
Hi, my name is Brigid Toner. I'm a manufacturing engineer for Caterpillar in Mapleton, Illinois.
Thank you so much. Jennifer?
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Lee. I'm the Corporate Counsel and Company Secretary for Horizon Therapeutics. We're a biopharmaceutical company focused on researching, developing and manufacturing rare diseases, medicines for rare diseases. I just want to take the opportunity to say thanks to Girl Up for inviting me to participate in the panel today. I hope everyone listening enjoys the discussion.
Thanks for coming. Céline?
Hi everyone, I'm Céline Talabaza. I'm the CEO of Noble Panacea. Noble Panacea is a new skincare brand. It was founded by Sir Persis Stoddart, and he was awarded Nobel Prize of Chemistry in 2016. I'm very happy to be with you this morning, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
We are so happy that you're here. And Alexis, if you could go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexis Lennon. I serve as an Events and Communications Specialist at the U.S. Department of State in the Office of Science and Technology Cooperation. Really excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Cool. Thank you all for those introductions. Let's just jump right in. So for the first question, can you all maybe tell us a little bit about your company or organization, and tell us a little bit about what a typical day in your life looks like. Anyone can jump in, or if you'd like, I can point to someone.
I'll start. So Noble Panacea is a new skincare brand that is built around the principle of green chemistry and solid science. We use a very sophisticated technology applied to the ingredient delivery system. The group really believes in efficacy, in precision, in responsible beauty, and in the power of nature. And as I mentioned before, our founder, he is the board of trustee at Northwestern University. He has mentored over 500 PhD students from around the world. And we believe as a brand that mentorship and collaboration is very key. So what an average day look like for me, it's the team is very diverse, sitting across the globe in different countries. So while the world is getting used to these virtual meetings, this is basically what I do every day. And I would say that I start in the morning with connecting with Asia and the Middle East, followed by Europe, and then beginning of the afternoon would look like New York and East Coast, and in the evening I would connect with California. I spend most of my time streamlining activities for the company, shaping the vision, coordinating the company operation, and trying to give some guidance on prioritizing my team schedule. So it's all about coordinating global effort, making sure that everybody is working in a very cohesive way, despite the fact that we are sitting across the world.
Happy to jump in here. Like I mentioned, I work at the Department of State in the Office of Science and Technology, and the really, I think, cool thing about the Department of State, and for those that don't know, is the arm of the government that handles foreign policy, is that every day really does look different. I have the amazing opportunity to be able to engage with the public and our foreign counterparts every day on various issues. I get to utilize social media and different digital platforms to inform the public of different cooperations that we have with our partner nations. I get to plan events with different governments to advance foreign policy goals as it pertains to science and technology. I get to work with scientists and technologists in the US and abroad to advance science and tech goals. So it's really exciting. No day looks the same. I think in our new normal, which is very virtual right now, it's still really, really engaging. A lot of the things that we have to do always have to be virtual because obviously we're working across borders. And so we've had to be a little bit more creative about how we're engaging, but I've seen that our deliverables and things have remained still really robust and abundant. So it's exciting. It's a really amazing place to work because you get to touch on so many issues. So every day really does look different, and I'm happy to field any questions that folks have as the panel goes on about it.
Cool, thank you. Marissa, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. So I work for TE Connectivity, and it's a global connector and sensors company. So if you're in a situation where you're relying on connectors or sensors to work, that's where we focus. So we say that we focus in harsh environments. And our company is global with over 8,000 engineers. So you can be working on projects in transportation with automotive, or working to try and make connected appliances, working in industrial environments, medical environments. So in terms of the engineering and STEM connection, there's a lot of variety that you can get working with the company. As a project manager, I manage engineering projects, and those tend to change. Right now, I'm working on ones for the aerospace industry and then also hand tools. So the group that I work with focuses on making the tooling to have the connectors and sensors work properly. So my day normally involves doing project meetings to try and share progress, get an update as to where we are in the project timeline. It's really important to try and notice and mitigate risks early. So a lot of what I'm doing is trying to think ahead for the big picture of the project to try and understand what problems we might have and how we can overcome them really quickly.
Awesome. And Brigid, if you'd like to share.
Hi. So Caterpillar is a global company that provides construction, mining, and energy and transportation equipment. So my facility, we make large engines that can power anything from a tugboat, a cruise liner, a locomotive, or also backup power and electric power for example, hospitals or data centers, as well as there are also places where that is the main source of power for a lot of people. So typical day for me, as everybody is meeting remotely, I'm still going into the office. I have to like go into a conference room so we don't have to wear a mask, but it's a little different, but we're trying to make sure everybody's staying safe because we do provide products that are essential to like the energy grid, natural gas, hospitals, obviously. We need to make sure that we're still able to support our customers around the world. So.
Cool. And Jennifer, if you'd like to tell us.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, Horizon is a biopharmaceutical company, and we're focused on researching, developing, and commercializing medicines that address unmet treatment needs for patients living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Horizon was founded in 2008. At the time, it was just a small number of employees and we didn't have any office space. But today we have over 1,200 employees and we have offices in Dublin and Lake Forest and downtown Chicago, Washington, DC, Mannheim in Germany. And just last year, we opened up an R&D and manufacturing facility in South San Francisco. Recently, we purchased a 3-building campus in Deerfield that we'll move into later this year. And we're also in the process of building a new corporate headquarters in Dublin. So it's a rapidly expanding and rapidly changing company. It's really exciting to work for them. It is an Irish company and its headquarters are in Dublin, where I'm based. So my role is corporate counsel and company secretary, which is kind of a twofold role. Wearing my hat as company secretary, I provide support to our board of directors, advising them on their obligations under corporate law in Ireland. And in my role as corporate counsel, I provide legal support really to all groups within the organisation. In Dublin, I work quite closely with our technical operations team, drafting and reviewing various contracts. And most recently, just this year, we've been really excited to launch a new medicine called Talabaza, which is the first and only FDA-approved medicine to treat a rare disease known as thyroid eye disease. So a lot of my work in the last few months has been supporting contracts for this medicine and bringing it to market. Aside from that, I work closely with our clinical operations team, drafting agreements to support clinical trials, and I'm also regularly involved in projects with tax and finance teams. So I suppose, like a lot of you have mentioned on the panel, it's a hugely varied workload, really interesting and really enjoyable, but it's quite difficult to describe just a typical day because they're all quite different.
Cool, that is awesome. Thank you all for sharing. We have such a different variety of possible careers in STEM represented here, and you're all doing such inspiring work. Can you tell me a little bit about your decision to work in a STEM field? Did you always know that you wanted to work in this field? And how did you decide to kind of take the leap and work in STEM? And what was your path to getting where you are now? I can maybe call on someone to start, and then if people have points that they want to make, feel free to jump in. Brigid, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. So I would say I definitely did not know that I wanted to pursue STEM. When I was in grade school, I was okay at math, but it never really excited me. What got me excited was actually the first robotics program. So it stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. I think it's a great program. Kids as young as 6 can start doing hands-on STEM activities and programming and building. All around the world, I think we're represented in almost every country. It's a great program because kids like myself who have never considered STEM can see how exciting. And instead of, I always joke, in the math class, there's one right answer. every year these kids are given a problem where they might have to build a robot to complete the task, and there's infinite numbers of good solutions that all have their drawbacks, and that's more what a real world engineer would see. So I think it's a great program. I would encourage it for everybody, and it really does introduce and give kids a taste of what it is like to be in a STEM career, and tries to promote STEM throughout the world and how it can, really change the world.
Cool, thank you. Céline, would you like to share?
Sure. So in my case, I did study chemistry in high school, but that was a long time ago. Then I decided to continue college in business administration and management. So I took a specialty in international marketing. I was always curious as a kid to understand how things work, but I didn't choose to extend my study. However, I could have worked in very different industries, but I always chose to work in the beauty industry because that's really where people like me that are more of on the business side really get to collaborate with scientists, and with having fruitful discussion and collaboration, we reach a point where all the scientists and the R&D department are able to share their knowledge and ideas. And while people like me would analyze the market and see an opportunity to land an innovation or a positioning strategy, etc., working with scientists is enabling that vision to come to reality. So that's how I find the beauty industry so fascinating, is someone like me who didn't really study science get to work with scientists every day and collaborate on innovation.
Super cool. Marissa, would you like to talk?
Sure. So I actually found out about STEM careers in high school. When I joined in freshman year, we had the option of taking a class that every high school freshman had to take, which was like a freshman writing seminar, or they had a new Project Lead the Way program that had started just the year before me. And that was a 4-year certificate program where each year you take an engineering course, learning more about what engineering is, the kind of engineer you might want to be, what kind of courses you'd have to take, where you could go to get that education. And then ultimately you would have a project at the end of your senior year where you would find a problem, create a solution, and present it for a panel of engineers. So at that point, I was good at math and I liked science, so I was suggested to try the Project Lead the Way program. And the first class was a drafting and 3D modeling course, and I loved it so much and hadn't looked back since.
Wow, that's such a fun story. Jennifer, would you like to share?
Sure. So the short answer to whether I always envisaged working in a STEM organization is no. And before I joined Horizon, I worked for a commercial law firm both in Dublin and in London. At the time, I was specializing in medical malpractice litigation and pharmaceutical advisory work. So about 2.5 years ago, I decided to make the decision to move from private practice in-house and started looking at various organizations. I remember when I interviewed with Horizon, one thing that really struck me was, aside from me personally being really impressed by the type of work Horizon were doing to develop these medicines to meet unmet needs, I was also really struck by just how genuinely passionate the people who interviewed me were about the job they were doing. And they genuinely seemed to care about making a difference in patients' lives. So I recall leaving that interview and just thinking, wow, this is a company I really want to work for. And I have to say, I've been with Horizon 2.5 years now. And in that time, it's something I feel like I experience on a daily basis, that there's just this real sense of satisfaction, job satisfaction that you get from seeing that you're making a genuine difference in a patient's life. and seeing that you're part of something that's really special and really important to so many people. So I think that's what first attracted me to a job in the STEM industry, and I think it's a huge perk of working in this industry. It's not something that you would get from every industry, but we certainly get it in ours.
Wow, I love that. I love that description of STEM fields. And Alexis, would you like to share?
Sure, happy to. I think that to answer the question in short, absolutely did not see myself pursuing STEM. I got my master's degree in international communications with the intent on working in international affairs. And I started working at the State Department, and I had the opportunity to work on some really amazing women empowerment projects, one of which was YSI. And what comes with women empowerment is, encouraging young women to pursue STEM fields. And so I was charged with doing that on various programs and kind of fell into this sector of women's empowerment. And so it's just become increasingly more important and something that I'm really, really passionate about pursuing. In my current role, which I work really closely, everyone on my team is scientists. And I'm charged every day with taking sometimes really complex policies as it relates to science and technology and putting them out to the public and communicating them in a way that it's easily digestible. So I like to think that my non-traditional background in STEM and not being a scientist is really, really helpful in this regard, because I'm able to communicate with them and they're telling me about these really out there, scientific theories and things like that. And I'm like, okay, give it to me in layman's terms so that we can make sure that the public understands what we're doing here, because we're doing so many amazing things every day. And so I love the lens that I'm able to come at it with. And yeah, I'm, although non-traditional, really, really happy in the field.
Super cool. It's so fun to hear all of your stories and to hear about the kind of different paths that you all took to get to where you are. I am currently in college, and I try not to think about what I'm going to do after, and it can be very, very overwhelming to try to plan out a career. So I was wondering if you have any advice for students to prepare them for a STEM career after college. Maybe Jennifer, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So I think the best thing to do is just to try and research the area that you're interested in. Read about the companies you're interested in, follow them on social media, follow them on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Just try and find out as much as you can. And I know we will be discussing it a little bit more in detail later, but internships are a really fantastic way to get an insight into the company and to kind of have an idea of what the job might be like. So if you do get the opportunity to do an internship or some type of work experience, I think that's a super way to get an idea of what a career in STEM would be like.
Yes, I will definitely be asking you all about internships soon. Marissa, if you'd like to share.
Sure. I think one of the most important things to think about, especially when you're coming out of college, you're thinking about, okay, this is my first real job out of school. It's the first time that I'm going to be working on projects that are solely my own and have new responsibilities. So one thing that I think is important to keep in mind is when you're trying to find a job or something that relates to you, think about what those things about STEM get you excited, what gets you passionate, what is the thing that motivates you to want to be able to work in STEM. So for me, it was doing 3D modeling and design. So when I was looking at potential companies to work for, that was something that was tangible for me to touch and try and find those opportunities in those jobs. And then TE specifically has a rotational program. So being a part of that program, every 3 to 6 months, I was changing roles in engineering and got to learn a lot more about a company. So there are traditional roles where you find a job and you start in that position right out of college, but there's also rotational opportunities. So similar to what Jennifer was saying, definitely research what's available to you.
Cool. Alexis, would you like to share?
Sure. I think that, Jennifer, you gave really good advice. My advice to young women when they ask me this question is always just don't limit yourself and explore the field in its entirety. I think that in many cases, when you hear the word STEM, you think of science and technology only, but it just can look so different. In my case is a really good one where I focus on communications, but I also think Céline as well, with her skincare company, and just finding what it is that gets you excited. There is likely a place within the STEM field that you can fit. And I always tell them, like, we need more women in the field, and don't be don't be intimidated by the fact that you don't like computer science or the fact that you don't want to go into engineering. There's so many places that you can fit in the field. So just don't limit yourself and explore, try different things, talk to people. It doesn't necessarily have to be internships because that can be a pretty big commitment, but you can talk to people, ask them about their everyday, and just kind of get insight where you can to kind of see where you fit in best.
Cool, that is really great advice. You kind of gestured towards Céline, so Céline, if you'd like to share.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's right. STEM nowadays can apply to so many industries. So you could think about IBM, hard engineering, Microsoft, or companies that launches rockets, privately owned. And you could think about a beauty company like Noble Panacea. So knowing that STEM can apply to so many diverse industries or opportunity, the first advice that I would have is to keep an open mind. And if you're here listening to this panel today, it means that you have an interest for STEM. Maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do, but you do have an interest. So my second advice would be to follow your passion and interest. That for me, you're halfway there to make sure you succeed, because if you're choosing a job that you're passionate about, it's a blessing. You will be way more successful, much happier if you're doing something that you're personally convinced and passionate about.
Cool, thank you. That's really inspiring advice. And Brigid, if you'd like to share.
So I'm going to put a big plug for First Robotics. I absolutely love the program. It's great for high school students because not only do they get hands-on activities, the other thing that I think sets it apart from other programs that just focus on the STEM is the highest awards that they get for the program are actually for community outreach and encouraging other kids to go into STEM. So there's definitely a role for everyone on the team. I still mentor, and I'll tell you, hands down, I have freshmen who come in and who can do more software programming than I can easily. You learn different things that you like, and also even just the communication, being able to communicate what you did to judges. It makes me think of roles like Alexis, because it's one thing to be able to have a great idea, but unless you can communicate it to other people, then it doesn't do you as much good. You really need to be able to communicate what you did, how you did it, and work with people who might have a different vocabulary or thought process than you do. So I think that anytime you can do a hands-on project like that, whether it's through First Robotics, if you're in high school, if you're in college, like the Formula SAE is a hands-on program, the Mini Baja, the Concrete Canoe, there are a lot of college programs where they have competitions and you're learning how to work on a team. You're learning not only the technology, the organization skills that you're going to use in your career, and being able to talk to people who have different interests and different backgrounds. So that I think anytime you can do a hands-on project, you really learn a lot more than you would just in a classroom.
Cool, thank you. That's really good advice. I also just want to remind the audience that we want to hear your questions. Please feel free to continuously ask them in the chat. We won't answer them till the end, but feel free to start asking questions whenever they come to you. Okay, So a lot of you mentioned in your introductions that you're leaders of your divisions, or that you're the leader of your company or a CEO. And I'm sure that all of you work on a team and practice different leadership skills in your daily lives. So can you maybe tell us about what it's like to step into one of those leadership roles? Céline, if you'd like to start us off, maybe.
Sure. I'm not going to hide, there is a huge sense of responsibility, not only to the business, of course, but also to all the employees and collaborators. So I'm always trying to make sure that we aim for the best communication process, the best understanding, because as I mentioned, we are a global company with a lot of different backgrounds, scientists, non-scientists, a lot of different generations. We have people over 70 years old, and we have people that are in their fresh 20s. We are sitting in different regions of the world. So for me, it's very important that everybody gets a clear picture of what's the vision, what's the big picture, because I could remember my young days where maybe sometime I was assigned a specific task. And I think having the context of what your task is doing to the bigger picture is very important. So that's what I'm trying to do, always communicate the vision, inspire. And as you become more senior, you realize that business is always important, of course, but relationship with people is increasingly important, because that's how you make sure that all the employees, collaborators are fulfilled with their job. That's how you make sure that they will give their best. So to keep this in mind is always take care of your relationship, of the people surrounding you is extremely important.
Cool. Jennifer, would you like to share?
Sure, I agree completely with a lot of what Céline has said. And I think as you move into more senior roles in an organization, it's just really important to be mindful of the organization's goals, what they're looking to achieve, and the example that they're looking to set, the sort of the culture they're looking to foster within the organization, and just make sure that you bring that into your work on a day-to-day basis. And in Horizon in particular, we really foster an inclusive culture, and it's a company that really care about their employees, both on a professional and a personal basis. And I think you really need to sort of practice the company's culture, the company's objectives. You just need to set a really good example. And I think as you move into more senior roles, that's more important than before. So it's something that I think you just do naturally in your day-to-day role, but you certainly become more mindful of it as you move into a more senior role.
Cool. Alexis, would you like to speak?
Sure. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself quite senior yet. I do lead communications in our events and on our team. And I think that my answer is twofold, because so in my role leading communications and events, I am always trying to be sure that I'm making sure that our events that we carry out are intentional, clear, and well managed and well organized. And so taking the ideas and the goals that we're looking to achieve and making sure that we're doing that with each event. And same with our communications, like Céline was saying, it's such a huge responsibility to ensure that we are being considerate in all of our communications. Making sure that we are considering all, backgrounds and cultural norms, and, even down to the timing that we plan to do an online event. Is that the best timing for folks in a certain time zone? And so just making sure that all of those boxes are checked so that we are making sure our goals are being carried out in the way that we would like them to. And I think the other part of my answer is, I think what's unique to government, anyone who's working in government, is that first and foremost, you are a steward of public funds. And so you want to make sure that we are best being responsible with taxpayers' dollars, and making sure that you are doing the work of the public, and not, not misusing the funds, and making sure that all of the programs and communications and partnerships that we embark on are truly that in first and foremost serving the public. And so that responsibility is, I think, something that every public servant carries, and something that I take very seriously. So.
Cool, that's such an inspiring view of public service. Brigid, would you like to share?
Sure. So I'm currently doing a developmental role where I am supervising 25 skilled trades pattern makers, which most people might not know. So they're making the tooling that makes our product. A lot of them are very, very skilled. And I think the best advice I ever got about leadership is, if you want to be successful, don't have the goal of just, I want myself to be successful. Forget about yourself. You want to make someone else or something else, some goal successful, and to take yourself out of that. So, talking to employees, I've had a few who have said, hey, I'm really good at this area, but I'd like to learn how to do this. It's, if you talk to some of your employees, you might find, hey, this person has some interest and they want to learn more about this different area. If you can work with them and try and develop them as employees, then ultimately it's a win, because they feel more engaged and you also have a more skilled employee. So
Cool. And Marissa, would you like to share?
Sure. So in terms of projects, it's really important that we have an understanding of milestones and goals and understanding where we need to go. But the biggest foundation that you can have in order to be successful, similar to what a lot of other panelists have said, is you really need to have that inclusive environment, and it really is a team effort. So making sure that everyone understands why we're doing something is really critical, because you want to be able to take personal ownership of what you're doing and believe in the work that you're doing in order to get from step 1 to step 2. So it's really important as a leader to try and communicate what that vision is, create that understanding, that purpose, that why you're doing it, in order to make sure that people can all be on the same page, feel comfortable to share their thoughts. Especially when it comes to projects, you want to try and make sure that any risks are avoided and mitigated as quickly as possible. So being able to create that environment where you have that open communication to work together as a team is really important.
Cool. Now, shifting directions, a few of the panelists, you all mentioned internships. So I'm going to ask about that. A lot of us watching the panel are in high school or in college, and have been told about internships or thinking about internships. I think about internships. And so I was wondering if maybe you can speak a bit to that. Can you maybe talk about your own experience with internships, and if you did any in high school or in college? And also maybe give some advice on the best way to pursue internship opportunities, because it can feel kind of overwhelming to venture out in the sea of opportunities. So maybe Alexis, if you'd like to start.
Sure. I actually started as an intern at the Department of State, and that was my introduction to the world of government, but also to the world of the Department of State. While pursuing my master's degree, actually, I was in a class, and one of my professors, he started the class and he's like, okay, who in here are State Department interns? I know that there are, a few of you. And I'm like looking around like, State Department interns, is that a thing? And my classmate next to me, she's like, yeah, you haven't heard? It's like the internship that you have to do if you're in international, if you're interested in international affairs. And so I had no clue that it was like this thing that you should do. I went home that night, I applied, and I got a call a few months later. And what's so interesting, and I always like to mention, because it's just so odd, but while I was in undergrad, I worked in our information technology department just for like work study. And I wasn't really doing anything super complex. I was literally like unlocking people's passwords if they got locked out of their accounts. And when I got the call from the State Department to be an intern, the manager that called me, he's like, Alexis, do you know why I called you? And I'm like, no, I actually wasn't even expecting it. He let me know, he's like, I saw that you worked in your information technology in your IT department in undergrad, and everyone who works at the State Department, we have a lot of people who are just old and they're ancient and they don't know how to like, they're not computer savvy, they're not technologically savvy. And we could really just use some young, people with fresh eyes and who kind of know how to work their way around a computer and could just come in here and shake things up. And he's like, so that's why we want you to come. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And it was really, exciting. I think the best advice I have while in your internship is to be very vocal about your goals, where your, or your interests. Every person that I talked to, I was letting them know, this is what I want to do. This is where I think I want to work. Do you have any advice, any tips? Who should I speak to? And each conversation led to, oh, well, let me connect you with this person. If you have interest here, there's a person in this office that I think you should really talk to. And oh, this person started as an intern, and there's an intern that works overseas in New Delhi, you should speak with her. And so by the end of my internship, I had connected with so many people, and everyone knew, they're like, Alexis wants to work here. She wants to do this. Her interest is in women's empowerment. This is where she wants to go. And on the final day of my internship, I was connected with someone who wanted to offer me a position in the office full time. And so I just say, be vocal. There's that saying, closed mouths don't get fed. And I truly believe that when you're there, be very vocal about what it is that you want and where you're hoping to go, and you just never know what can come of it.
Cool, that's great advice. Brigid, would you like to share?
Sure. So I think internships are a great way of figuring out what you want to do. So for example, I got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, which is a wide field that you can go a lot of different directions in. I did an internship in manufacturing, and I found out I loved it. I love being able every day to go out and touch and see what I'm working with. I know Marissa kind of said her favorite part is designing. I hate designing things. Absolutely hate it. But I like being able to go and I can see every day, yes, we were able to make this product, and we are constantly working. Every day is different, to be able to see improving safety, improving quality, things like that. So I think if I had never done an internship in manufacturing, I wouldn't have pursued it as a career. So I think internships are great for that, because then, let's say if I had hated it, you've committed a summer, as opposed to, so that's sometimes just as important to find out, hey, this is not for me. I did it for a summer. I got some good experience. But, if you can try something and then see, yes, I like this aspect, but maybe, another area I got more excited, or, hey, this area is something I really enjoyed. I didn't think I would. So I think every person is different, and you're going to find one area that somebody else might like might be the same thing you hate. So internships are great for that. One thing I would encourage everybody who's in college, take advantage of your career center. I'm sure every school has a career center. It's simple way to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Have them look at your resume, do some practice interviews, because then you can go into an interview for an internship with confidence and making sure you're presenting yourself in the best light possible. I think that really will set you apart to help you get an internship.
Cool. Marissa, would you like to share?
Yeah, I'll definitely echo what Brigid was saying about career services. That was really critical for me in college. I participated in undergrad in a co-op program. So It's similar to an internship, but it integrates internship opportunities with your coursework. So one semester I would be working for a company, and then that following summer, maybe I'm doing some classes or vice versa. So it was a way to integrate what I was learning in the classroom with hands-on engineering experience. And you definitely do understand very quickly what you like and what you don't like. And both are just as valuable to figure out, because you'll ultimately be using that in your next step forward, learning if it was something you're interested in, maybe you pursue it a little bit more next time. Or if it's something you're not interested in, well, what exactly about it didn't you like, and what do you think might be interesting instead? About high school, I would also leverage your guidance counselors. They're a really great opportunity for you to start asking questions about things you think you might like, but you don't know too much about, or who can you connect with. It's really important to try and ask those questions, because the more curious you can be, the more information you can find out as to what you like and what you don't like. And it'll definitely be helpful for you trying to figure out what it is that you want to do in the future.
Cool. Jennifer, would you like to share?
Sure. I did an internship with the law firm in Dublin just after I finished university. And from that internship, I was offered a traineeship program. So I'm a huge advocate of the internship programs. I think they're a really fantastic way just to get an idea of the organization and the kind of area that you'd like to work in. I think they're just a great sort of first step into the industry. And they're kind of a good opportunity to try on the job and see if it's what you liked. One thing I think is also really important with the internships, and I kind of mentioned Horizon's culture earlier, but it gives you that opportunity to really get an idea of what a company's culture is like, because that can vary from company to company. And you know, a company that is a fit for one person may not be a fit for another person. And the internships are a lovely opportunity to sort of get some hands-on experience and see if it's a place that you really would like to work. In terms of researching internships, again, I guess check out the company's websites, see if there's any information there. If there isn't any information on the websites, maybe drop somebody an email in the company, somebody in HR, and ask them, do you offer internships, or is there any possibility? Because you may come across one or two organizations that perhaps haven't put it on their website, but do offer a kind of an internship program. So just as all of the panelists, I think, have said, be curious, be inquisitive, ask questions, try and find out as much as you can. And like I said earlier, if you get the opportunity to do an internship, absolutely do it. They're really fantastic.
Cool. And Céline, would you like to share?
Sure. Yeah, I'm all about internships. So I studied in France because I'm French. And in France, they have, so when you're 14, they send you for a 3-day mini internship to kind of discover the professional world. And I think it's very smart because you get to realize what you like and what you don't like. And then when you start college, depending on which career do you choose, which specialty, you're invited at least, for me, I did 2, 3, 4 internship in total, some of them 4 months, some of them 6 months. I even was invited to stop for a full year to have the opportunity to do 2 6-month internship. And I chose, at that time I was studying management, and I thought I wanted to do something around advertising. So I did internship in an advertising agency, which was very important for me to realize that, yes, I loved advertising, but no, I didn't want to work in an agency, because actually I wanted to be on the brand side and kind of leading the vision of the brand. So for me, that was very important. Also to understand if I wanted to start my career based in France, or I wanted to start working abroad in different countries with different cultures. So by the time you finish college, you have around 2 years plus working experience. And this is a huge advantage because the gap between what we learn in school and what the company world was at that time, there were a little bit of a disconnect. So it might have evolved, and I hope so. However, I think the earlier you start trying and trying things to understand what you like to do, what you're good at, and also who do you want to work for, because that's also about, again, the people you work with. So it's very important to start early. I'm not sure how, what's the best platform in the US. In France, we have, if you're studying in a school, you do have like a career department, doing some practice with interview, having different people look at your resume to give you feedback according to different countries. Again, the rules are not the same. It's very important for you to get that opportunity. But I will always remember that first person that said yes to my profile and invited me to spend some time in their company. I will always be grateful, because everybody needs the first experience to then continue. So internship, definitely a must.
Cool. Thank you for all that wonderful advice. We're now going to transition over to audience questions. So let's start off with one that comes from Mary. I'm very, very sorry if I mispronounced your name. But Mary wants to know, what are some skills that are essential to be successful in STEM fields? So maybe Marissa, you could start us off.
Sure. So for skills, I definitely say you need to be curious. It's important within any kind of STEM field to always be asking questions and trying to learn more. So kind of that continuous learning mindset is really important. And I'd say also to be passionate about what you're working on. That's really going to help to drive you forward in a STEM career, because if you truly believe in what you're working on, then you'll be so much more successful in the future.
If I could jump in, I think that Marissa is exactly right. I think there's, especially as women, there's always the fear that you don't want to look, the imposter syndrome of feeling like everybody else knows everything. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The things that you learn in college are building blocks, but you're going to continually learn as technology changes and improves. So be willing to, especially I would encourage all interns, don't, when you come in or as a new employee, ask questions. Don't just assume, oh, everybody else in the room must already know this. I'm stupid. I shouldn't ask. You should ask and see it as a learning opportunity. So I think that's a good skill for everybody.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that and completely agree with what Brigid has just said there about asking questions. When I joined Horizon, I came from a commercial law firm. So while I understood the work that Horizon were doing and I was really excited about it, I didn't have a science background. And those initial few months, it took a while to get up to speed with exactly what the medicines we were developing were, what the conditions they were treating. And I'm 2.5 years in with Horizon now, and I'm still asking questions all the time. Our science folk will sometimes say something to me and I'll have to say, hey guys, like in English for me, please. And you just have to be inquisitive. Don't be afraid about asking questions. A lot of time, if you ask the question, there's usually somebody else sitting in the room who will thank you for asking it, because they probably wanted to ask it themselves. So just be inquisitive, like learn as much as you can, be hardworking, and like a few of the other panelists have said, understand what the company you're trying to achieve, their goals, and understand if that's something that you're also passionate about.
Cool. Okay. Next question. So Allison and Mary have asked similar questions. They kind of want to know about obstacles that you faced while doing your jobs and how you were able to overcome them. So maybe Alexis, you could start with this.
Sure, I'm happy to. I think it's inevitable that as a woman in STEM, you will face issues in the workplace. Not necessarily issues, but also obstacles. You will be doubted, you will have to continuously prove yourself, and you will have to work twice as hard. I think that you should never feel intimidated. You should continue, like Marissa and Brigid said, and Jennifer, to ask questions. Be confident in your ability, be confident in your background and in your skills. and push forward. I think that, especially as a minority woman, that is another layer of an obstacle that you'll have to overcome. I would be lying if I said it wasn't, increasingly more difficult for me, every day having to prove myself, but it's important, it's important to have women's background, and it's important to have diversifying input. And so just being confident in your abilities is the best advice that I can give, because the obstacles will be coming. They'll never stop. I think that's why it's so important for us to have panels like this and for more women to be in the field, so that we can continue to break down those barriers.
Yeah, and if I could jump in, I think that Alexis is right, and the best thing we can do is to support other women. So we did a training program. It's called Breakthrough Leadership. It's kind of challenging you to, be aware of your own unconscious biases, and then how to call other people out. So one thing would be, if Alexis had an idea in a meeting, I would be able to say, hey, Alexis has this great idea. And then you make sure that you say their name, and that, Alexis would get credit for her idea, and that not, 5 minutes later, somebody else would say the same thing, and then, they would get credit. So you want to make sure that you promote the other women and the other people, minorities that you might work with, and make sure that they're being heard and that they're being recognized for their contributions.
Cool. Sorry, give me a second to pull this question up. Claire would like to know, since we're going into the summer for a lot of students, if you have any programs or challenges, or I'll add internships, that they can participate, that you would like to plug or to share. I know Brigid talked a little bit about robotics, but if anyone has any opportunities that they'd like to share, that would be great. Céline, maybe?
Sure. So we don't have yet, because we are a new company, but internship is definitely something that we want to look at. As I mentioned, I'm really a believer of internship shaping the path of someone's career. And in the beauty industry, there are some magnificent groups that are treating internship in a very serious way, where you're part of a group, you're part of a trainee program, you have specific teams dedicated to find specific profiles, and you're definitely considered to then become a permanent resource for the company. And if I speak to my own experience, L'Oréal and Unilever are great companies that really promote diversity, young talents, and offers a very solid internship program. So that's in the meantime, and then I hope we will be able to launch our internship program soon, as all Noble Panacea employees so far are fully employed.
I'd like to jump in here. Horizon do run an internship program every year, where we host 40 to 45 internships during the summer. It's a 10-week program, and typically they're college or graduate level students. The interns are each allocated to a specific department within the organization. So in legal, we have an intern this year, and she's working from San Francisco. What the program does is it gives the interns, I guess, exposure to the ins and outs of working in the pharmaceutical industry. They are allocated to particular departments, as I've mentioned, but in addition to that, the interns then get together and they'll work on research projects related to our medicines and therapeutic areas. So they get a little bit of exposure to the company as a whole, as opposed to just the department that we're working in. Actually, before doing this panel discussion, I had a look on our website at some of the videos from the interns in the last few years to hear the feedback that they'd given. And one or two things that really struck out and stood out for me as to what the interns said is that they really felt the work they did during the internship program was very meaningful. and that they saw the internship program as more of a job experience than just an internship. So we've had really positive feedback. The interns seem to really love it, and it's been a huge success for us. So I would suggest you check out the Horizon Internship Program, definitely.
Cool, and we are approaching the end of the panel, so I'm going to ask one final question. Michaela would like to know, and I think this is a great question to end on, what is one thing about your job that you look forward to every morning? Maybe Alexis, if you'd like to jump in.
One thing that I look forward to every morning is just the new challenges that we're faced with, all the global issues that will inevitably present themselves, we get a chance to tackle. And then another really amazing thing is just constantly being an advocate, diversifying our programs, making sure there's representation from all walks of life in all of the robust programs that the State Department has to offer. Just making sure that we're present, making sure that all voices are heard.
Cool. Marissa, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that really energizes me in the morning, opening up my email, is just being able to work with the people on my team. It's really energizing to have that really inclusive, energetic environment, especially now where things are uncertain and we're all in different working conditions. It's really energizing to just be able to talk to the people I work with and really engage and brainstorm and trying to make our projects the most successful that it can be.
Cool. Céline, if you'd like to share.
So for me, it's really about establishing the responsible beauty and making sure that considering the way we approach packaging, our formulation, the sourcing of our ingredients, the way we work with women in leadership position, and also the way we portray beauty. As a beauty player, you're also responsible on how you use that platform to communicate a beauty that is authentic and real. I think all of these are key objectives that for me in the beauty industry is really important to land with Noble Panacea.
Cool. Okay, thank you all so much for taking the time to do this. We are unfortunately out of time. I wish we could just keep talking and keep answering questions. It's personally really great to hear from you, and this is useful advice. And I hope that the audience also felt that way. Thank you so much for your insight on landing a job in STEM and on the kind of diversity of career paths. It's really inspiring to hear about how unique all of your stories are. And about all the wonderful work that you're doing. To our audience, please look out for an email from Girl Up with more information on how to apply for internships with these organizations and more information about our STEM for Social Good programming in general. Also, take a look in the chat box for a link to Girl Up's STEAM resources. The resources can be found at girlup.org/issues/STEM. But yeah, that's kind of all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.